Now, I'm going over this list. Every single thing was bad. I say, what do you have to lose? But I say the same thing about the education. So we're last per pupil. We're last. We're at the bottom of the list in terms of the capabilities. 40 different countries. We're at the bottom of almost every list. But we're the top of the list in cost spent per pupil. We spend more money per pupil than any other country in the world, by far. And yet, we're last on the list in terms of, so what the hell do we have to lose? But I also know, like places like, go back to two I just mentioned, but look at Iowa, look at Idaho, look at you'll have some of the best school systems in the world. And you know what we'll do? We'll give them about half the money that we send them now. And for half the money, they'll have a lot of money left over. We'll cut our budget in half. And not everybody's going to be great. I mean, Gavin Newsom will not do a good job with education. So I don't expect that out of him. But I don't expect it out of certain other people. I don't want to mention too many people, but he'll do a horrible job, it won't be any worse than it is now. It can't get any worse. But many of the states, I would say I went over them, 40 of the 50 states will do much better. And I'll bet you 30 of the states will be phenomenal. It'll be like beautiful. It'll be like Norway. You know, Norway has a great education system. In New York, they said, yes, we're studying the Norwegian plan. Oh, really? You're studying the Norwegian plan? Well, you better bring a lot of cops along because you have a lot of problems, right? We're studying the plan of Norway and Denmark. And actually, China is very high on the list. I mean, China's number 3 or 4 on the list. Think of it. Can you imagine that China is number 3 or 4 on the list? No, we're going to give it back to the states, and most of those states are going to do a phenomenal job.
You know, easily one of the funniest things about Donald Trump is that he just says stuff. You never know what you're going to get, whether he's talking about a decision between dying by shark attack or dying by electrocution in the middle of the ocean somewhere, or if all of a sudden he pretends like he or anybody within the Republican apparatus is interested in a Norway-style education system, or anything to do with anything that's socialist. Like, give me a break, man. Republicans have been going after public education for decades.
A CNN analysis found that Arizona's program is disproportionately benefiting students in richer communities. As the state's private schools like Dream City get a windfall in tax dollars, public schools are seeing declining enrollment and shrinking budgets.
It hurts the neighborhood. People bought into this area, with the fact that we had a school, now we don't have a school.
Families and teachers said goodbye at Sunset Canyon Elementary, one of 3 schools shutting down in its district after hundreds of kids moved to vouchers.
Right now, public schools are really, in my opinion, failing to do their most basic duty, educating our children. We saw widespread closures during the COVID pandemic, which led to students falling behind in core subjects like reading and math, which, by the way, I oppose the closures and the lockdowns because it was an absolute scam, and the impact to our children, I think we'll see for an entire generation. But during that time, under the guise of COVID, Congress appropriated billions, $189 billion to the ESSER fund to restore educational services after COVID-19. Of course, like everything else, the government throws taxpayer dollars at. The money was often used inappropriately. While there were some school districts that appropriately spent the funds, there were many, and unfortunately far too many, that used it for nonsense like DEI programs, critical race theory, gender ideology, and other work programming. And before anyone questions whether or not it actually happened, I'll point to my very own school district that I graduated from, which spent money implementing these programs. First and foremost, Congress has a responsibility to question how the schools are spending taxpayer dollars and how they're being effective in the use of those dollars. My first question is to Ms. Is it Gentiles?
Gentle with an S, so Gentles.
Gentles. Ms. Gentles, will expanding school choice, which is a very popular topic in many states, including Missouri, will that improve the student outcomes?
Yes, there have been close to 200 studies of existing school choice programs, and the vast majority of those do indicate that there are improvements in not just the participating students, but in the public school students in the surrounding area. Those competitive pressures improve the district services to the nearby students. So rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful competition can be. My other question, often whenever I'm discussing this topic, there are teachers that I think we all love teachers, but there's often a fear of how this might impact their livelihood, impact their opportunities. In your opinion, does expanding school choice help teachers?
Well, the fear comes from the unions who are concerned about losing the dues-paying members from the public system. There's absolutely no need for fear on the part of educators or those who care about them because, of course, education alternatives to the traditional public school need teachers. So teachers are teaching in these private schools and other education options. And again, when we talk about those studies, it revealed that the teacher salaries in surrounding areas where you have school choice programs, those increase. So everybody benefits.
Whew, okay, critical race theory. I just want to be clear. I'm gonna go to the end real quick because I know that was brought up. Critical race theory, is that typically taught K through 12, yes or no?
No.
Okay, all right, so we can stop with the nonsense because K through 12 was not teaching critical race theory, at least in this country. I can't talk about what happens in other countries, but in our country, K through 12 is not learning critical race theory, just for those that are unfamiliar. In addition to that, we just heard about AFT and what they're advocating for. And I know that there was a comment that you made as relates to discipline and how that's something AFT should be advocating for so that teachers can be safer. Is that correct? Am I characterizing what you said correctly?
I believe that both the NEA and the AFT should endorse policies that keep educators safe. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a quick question. Actually, I would like for all three of you to answer this question. It's just a yes or no. We'll start at this end. When you were growing up and going through school, did you ever have to go through an active shooter drill? Yes or no?
No.
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 Oh, okay. All right. So can we agree that guns being kept out of schools may be one of those things that could keep not only teachers safe, but also students safe? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 Okay. Sometimes the safest space is at school for some of these children. And what is so annoying to me is that we debate whether or not we will invest in our futures. As far as I'm concerned, there is no better investment than in our children. Because if we are going to make sure that this country continues on, it's not going to start by investing in people that look like me or of my age. It starts with making sure that there's a foundation. And I just want to say that I am thankful for those teachers that decided to go in, even when they were under-resourced, even given of their own resources, to make it happen. I lost teachers in my district during the pandemic because they literally risked their lives in the midst of a pandemic to show up because they love those kids that much, because I can tell you, the pay is not there. Teachers aren't getting rich. Maybe professors, but not teachers. And so the fact is, I've talked to my school districts. They were able to take advantage of the extra money that was given to them, but guess what? They still had gaps that they needed to fill. And the reason that I brought up gun violence is, number one, it's a safety issue, but also as it relates to the mental health. Children nowadays know where they need to go in case somebody comes in. They're looking for the closet. That is no way for kids in America to live. So we need to make sure that we put kids first. Thank you so much, and with that, I will yield.
Whether it's the Environmental Protection Agency or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or the Department of Education, the Republican Party is pretty much after the administrative state in all forms and fashions. I remember Rick Perry. One of the biggest things I remember about Rick Perry is his fight against the Department of Education, because who needs that? I mean, one of the biggest issues that America faces outside of how much higher education costs in general is that our education system is not even modern. It doesn't prepare the workforce for where the job market is. It doesn't prepare the workforce for where the job market is headed. It just doesn't. It's been stagnant for decades and decades and decades. And Republicans are like, oh, let's just get rid of federal oversight of that. Oh, why? Oh, so that they can continue to privatize things. Because that's all the Republican Party is about. Cutting taxes and privatizing everything within society. Oh, and, sprinkle in a whole bunch of deregulation and racism and sexism and taking away people's rights and subjugating people pretty much. Same old story.